Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game from the semi-finals of the Speed Chess Championship. We all know that now Magnus will face Hikaru in the finals. We also saw some of the games from the Wesley So versus Magnus Carlsen semi-finals, and now it's time to check out what happened in Hikaru versus Maxime. We already have seen the final score in the previous video. This is a game I decided to show as it will also give us an idea of what we can expect in the finals with Hikaru versus Magnus. So let's check it out. In this game, Hikaru had the white pieces and he opened with pawn to e4. Now, leading up to this game, in the blitz section, Maxime started the match by winning 3 games in a row. So that was a pretty bad start for Hikaru. Then one game ended in a draw. Then Hikaru managed to win game 5, and this is now game 6. So let's check it out. And to e4, of course, you guys already know what Maxime plays, even without me showing it to you. Of course, pawn to c5. Maxime always goes for the Sicilian defense. And even though you know that, it's still very hard to play against him. Knight to f3, we have d6, bishop to b5 check going for the canal attack, and the bishop to d7. Hikaru trades, captures, and pawn to d3. So a very principled idea. Hikaru trades off the light square bishops and now puts his pawns on light squares, and he will have a dark square bishop to go in between those light squares. So knight to c6 by Maxime, castles, and pawn to e6 now. And here, a lot of moves have been played, like a rook to e1, bishop to e3, some also other less played moves, but c3 has never been played, and it is now as of move 7 that we have a completely new game. And the move, of course, does a lot. It prevents the knight from coming to b4 or d4. It sets up the future pawn to d4 advancement. It frees up this diagonal for the queen to enter the game, as of course Hikaru is expecting Maxime to castle queenside, since he still has to develop quite a lot to actually castle kingside. So pawn to d5. If white allows it, of course, every Sicilian player will play this as soon as possible. Queen to e2, nicely aligning the queen with the black king, and here MVL castles. Knight b to d2. Now, the downside of having the pawn on c3 is that you cannot put the knight on its natural square, which is the c3 square. So, of course, knight to d2, and now the knight is coming to c4 or b3, not c4 right away, obviously. There's a pawn on d5, but, maybe in the future. So, bishop to d6, Maxime continues development, and now pawn to a3, Hikaru prepares white's strongest move, and that is pawn to b4. We have knight g to e7, now Maxime also ready to start advancing those pawns on the king side, and pawn to b4 by Hikaru. We have knight to g6 and now pawn to g3, fighting against the bishop on d6 and also controlling the squares of the knight on g6 that the knight can go to. Pawn to f5, Maxime also wants to open up the f file to put his rooks on the f file, and now b captures on c5. Now Hikaru gets the semi-open b file, which he will use for his rooks. We have bishop captures and now pawn to e5. You would like to play d4, but then f captures on e4, and now white is in trouble. So Hikaru first plays e5, he prevents the capture on e4, and now he will advance the pawn to d4 when the position calls for it. We have pawn to f4, Maxime wants to start the attack on the king side before Hikaru starts the attack on the queen side, but now knight b3, a free tempo as the bishop on c5 is undefended, the bishop to b6, and here comes pawn to a4. Now any other move besides the pawn to a4 will allow Maxime to start his attack. So a4 is crucial here, preparing pawn to a5, and there's really no good way to treat this. There is one, but Maxime didn't play it. Like, to give you an example, if you play f captures on g3, it doesn't really do all that much. Like h captures now, still. Okay, you could maybe go after the e5 pawn. Let's say you play bishop c7, knight to c5, and already black is lost. The queen is hanging, you will move the queen, d4 defends the knight, bishop to g5 is coming next, and if you stop bishop to g5, then already knight captures on b7 is winning. King captures, queen comes to b5 with check. Now if the king moves, you will pick up the knight, and the black king's defenses have been shattered, or if you block with the bishop, then pawn to a5 will again win back material, because if knight captures, then you have rook captures, the bishop is pinned, and so on. So after a4, queen to f7 was played. It's not a move that helps Maxime. The only move that helps Maxime is knight to a5, but it's still not going to be an easy game. For example, captures, bishop a3, and the Hikaru's position is just much better. But after queen to f7, Hikaru is basically winning. He plays pawn to a5, bishop to c7, and now pawn to d4, stopping all of Maxime's counterplay, and Maxime played queen to f5 now. but it doesn't really help. I thought about making this pause the video moment or maybe a few moves later, so I decided to use both of them as they are very nice. So feel free to pause the video and try to find pretty much the only straight up winning move for Hikaru while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this beautiful idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight to c5. That's the move. Not pawn to a6, then like b6, and there's nothing really happening here. It is knight to c5, which is not easy to make because you leave the a5 pawn defenseless here, but it is the way to victory because the b7 pawn is the real target. So after bishop captures on a5 or knight captures, doesn't really matter. Hikaru's idea is the same. Queen b5 threatens checkmate on b7, and after bishop to b6, well, you of course know what the move is that Hikaru prepared by playing knight to c5. Feel free to pause the video for the second time and win the game while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on completely disregarding all of Black's defensive moves. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook captures on a7. This is what Hikaru played, and it was in this position on move 21 that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Of course, if bishop captures, then queen captures on b7 is mate in 1, and if you capture with the knight, it's not much better. Queen captures on b6, again threatens checkmate, so you can play something like queen to f7 to block checkmate as the knight covers the d7 square. But now knight g5 attacks the queen, also the e6 pawn is now attacked 3 times. If you play queen to c7, then you win back material, and now you have a bishop, a knight and a bishop for a rook, which is winning in itself. Already also you're up a pawn, and also there is no way of stopping knight captures on e6. So here, whatever you play, the position just collapses completely. There's not even, I know you guys like it when I finish the games, but there's not even a move I can suggest here for Black, as the position is really that bad. So of course Maxime saw this after rook captures on a7, he resigned, and that's pretty much it. Hikaru, although he started the match poorly, he started by losing the first 3 games, he got back really quickly and won the match convincingly. So we've seen what happened in the Wesley So versus Magnus match. Magnus won with a score of 22-7. For those of you who haven't seen the previous video, in the 5+1 section, Magnus won with a 6.5 to 2.5. Then in 3+1, Magnus won with 8-1. And in bullet, Magnus won with 7.5 to 3.5. Whereas Hikaru against Maxime, Hikaru won the blitz section. Although, like I said, he started with down 3 points. He won it with 5 to 4. Then he lost the 3+1 section with a score of 3.5 to 5.5. But then he completely made up for it in bullet, as he won the bullet section with 8 to 2. So the final score was 16.5 to 11.5. So not quite the difference Magnus managed to do against Wesley So we'll see how Hikaru does in the finals. He says he will have to do a lot better than he did here when he was playing Maxime, but if he brings his A game, he definitely has a chance. And as I understand it, Magnus is still leading in their final matches of the Speed Chess Championships. They've met 3 times already, and Magnus has a 2-1 advantage. So if Hikaru wins now, he equalizes and they have an equal score. If Magnus wins, he gets a 3-1 advantage, and as Magnus said, the winner will definitely have bragging rights for the foreseeable future, or maybe Hikaru said that, I have no idea. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very much looking forward to the final match. I would like to thank Ellen Solhartstein, Paul Miller, Kenneth Fraser, Ludi and Ralph, and Nikmetin Yasser for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.